On this episode of Captain's Tales, we're going into the night to fish the lights for some Florida linesider action.
Not a bad fish.
Throughout maritime history, there have been experts on the water who knew how to navigate and locate their bounty. These individuals held the secrets to where, when, and how. This still holds true today. Get ready for an angling experience filled with sea secrets, fantastic fishing, and great destinations. For on this show, it's only the captain and the camera. On this trip, we leave the dock with Captain Chris Emerine carefully making our way in the darkness, visually searching the waters surrounding the many docks that circle the bay for any signs of feeding fish.
Now this is the summertime, so the shrimp are very small, which is perfect for these lights. A lot of times people are trying to throw way too big a bait into these lights. You're wanting to match the hatch, and what they're feeding on is little tiny shiners and little shrimp and things like that that the current's pushing back to them. So a little guy this size is perfect. We just pulled up to a snook light a little bit further upriver, and there's a whole bunch of catfish that are circling directly under the beam of the light, but on the outskirts of the light there's a bunch of big snook patrolling on the outside. So the trick is to try to get the snook to eat them before a catfish gets it. So we're going to pitch a shrimp in there and see what happens. Okay, I just felt something. Oh. Now, when you're fishing with a circle hook, it's important to remember you don't want to set the hook. All you want to do is just kind of come tight, and you'll catch beautiful fish just like this. Now the reason the snook are there in the lights is because there's little bait, there's shrimps, there's bugs landing on the water that they're coming up and eating. So you can throw a variety of different things at them. You can throw live bait, you can throw a small jig, you can also throw a fly. A lot of people love to fly fish at night because of that. You can actually see the snook sitting in the light, and you can take advantage of it. You get a nice live shrimp going back there, and game on every time. Uh-oh. We got flipper. Dolphin are coming to keep us company here. Don't go that way, buddy.
Bottlenose dolphins follow Captain Chris from light to light, and you can hear them breathing in the darkness as they linger around the boat side hoping for a fish to eat.
Another little guy, all little perfect cookie cutter size right now. Back in you go. When you come up to a snook light, it's important to remember that I know that you can see all the snook in that snook light. You got to remember that there's a lot of big fish and other fish that are sitting on the side of the snook lights. So you don't always have to throw directly into the light. You can always throw right off to the side. Sometimes you'll actually have better luck with bigger fish, or if the bite's slow, you'll actually get bites over on the side of the light as opposed to directly into the light. So I like to fish all around the area because you know that the light's attracting them, so you know that there's going to be fish around. You just have to figure out where they're laying and where they're eating. He's a good one. He's got me under there pretty good. If it wasn't for braided line, there's no chance of me getting him out of there. A little bit better. Had to pitch this guy up underneath the dock. The big ones are big for a reason. They're a little bit smarter. They actually stay underneath the dock and you really have to horse them out of there. He's a little better fish. Got a little meat to him. Definitely a much better fight. All right. That guy. All right, ready to let him go? Important things to remember when you're going out night fishing as opposed to fishing during the day. It's dark, very dark sometimes depending on the moon. You always need to have plenty of light. I prefer having a little light on my hat for what my hands are doing, tying knots and so on and so forth. You also need to have a spotlight, which is very handy for seeing markers and such as you're running. And another thing you also need to remember to have is something to keep the bugs away. This is a little thermocell unit, works great, kind of surrounds the area, if you will, with some bug away stuff. Really helpful so you don't get bit all night long. The setup that I like to use night fishing is a medium heavy rod. It allows for a lot more meat to the rod, so you're able to pull out the big snook from underneath the docks. And I like to use a 4,000 reel. I put 15-pound braid onto the 4,000 reel. It goes down to a spider hitch, and then I tie a uni-to-uni knot to the spider hitch. Then I bring that has to be fluorocarbon. Fishing around the docks, the fluorocarbon is almost invisible, and it's also very abrasion resistant. Which helps around the pilings and so on and so forth with all the barnacles and stuff like that on the pilings. And then I go down to the smallest owner circle hook that I can get. This guy is a 4 circle hook and perfect for the little tiny summer shrimp that we're throwing at these snook tonight. The way I like to put on a shrimp is I actually take this shaft of the hook, put it in, and then go up and through the head. and you try to miss the little dark spot inside the shrimp's head there, because that's his brains, and if you go through that, it instantly kills him. But he'll stay alive on the hook for at least a few minutes, probably at least a good 10 casts or so. You're drifting down and you're actually keeping the pressure on them like this. They're just kind of drifting back through the light, and it just offers a perfect presentation, and they'll come up and they'll attack it from behind, and of course they wind up with the hook in their mouth. Docks require a little bit of different strategy. I like to check out, see what kind of current I have flowing by. If it's real good strong current, I like to anchor up and I like to drift into the dock. If it's not, then I'll just trolling motor past and flip a shrimp into the light and hope that I'm going to get a bite, because when there's no current, you're normally going to get 1, maybe 2 bites from a snook, and then it'll basically turn the light off for 30 minutes or so. Just like to trolling motor right on past and see if we can pick up a snook or two, and then move to the next if there isn't current. And if there is, then we'll anchor up. When you have a full moon, you don't have to concentrate just on the snook lights. The fish tend to get out into the passes or underneath docks and stuff like that, because that's their feeding. The moon actually gives enough light where they can be anywhere. So I've always found that the best night fishing is when there's a full moon. Now when you're fishing the docks, it's super important to use fluorocarbon leader. The fluorocarbon is a lot more invisible in the light, so when the light actually shines, it doesn't scatter the light like the regular mono does, and it's also a lot more abrasion resistant than regular monofilament. I like to use Seagar, and it's the best stuff out there. Is that these docks do belong to people that live here on the water. You got to try to be as respectful as possible. You want to try to stay quiet anyway, because the fish don't like it when you're real loud. If you throw up onto a dock and you get hung up, it's their property. You don't want to go climbing all over their docks and climbing on their boats and such. Just cut it off and retie.
Captain Chris positions the boat within casting range to make a clean cast without spooking the feeding frenzy. The eerie luminescence of the dock and submerged lights outline the silhouettes of the fish as they gorge on shrimp and small bait fish.
Another little snook. Another little guy. Hit right on the light. Got to actually watch him eat. That's pretty cool. There he goes. Let's get another one. Fight hard. Fishing a light with tons of snook all over it, and a little redfish comes up and eats it. It's a little guy, but he won. guy?
Many different species can be found feeding in the night lights. Catfish, redfish, snook, tarpon, bluefish, jacks, and sea trout, just to name a few.
Circle hook is dug deep, right in the side of the mouth where it's supposed to be. Goes. Nice little fish. You know, it's funny, we've had a dolphin come up all close to us. They're not interested in the redfish at all. You get a snook on, and you gotta constantly be on the lookout. There he goes. Better fighter here. Not acting very snook-like. Maybe a jack or something? Oh, or a snook. Snook will work. Another average size fish. Dolphin are all around us trying to get a hold of them. I'll just cut that one off. These hooks will come right out of these fish. If you get them, I mean, I'm using circle hooks most of the time. They're hooked up here in the lip, but if you get them down in their stomach or down in the, down their throats, I don't like to try to yank them out of their gills or anything like that. Just cut it as close as you can get. It'll rust right out after a couple of weeks, and he'll eat just fine. He'll eat after that and everything. He's got a much better chance of surviving. Got a bite. That's a little bit better of a fish there. We had to get that fish out of the water quick. There was a dolphin right up on him. I have to let him have that hook. He swallowed it. Not a bad fish. Alright, we gotta try to keep him away from flipper.
Try one more fishing spot online. Log on to www.captainstales.com. Join us again next week for another episode of Captain's Tales, and try one more fishing spot online. Log on to www.captainstales.com.